It's your fangirl Tally, and it's time for a little bit of fun. We are going to check out the Southern food you have to eat on New Year's Day with Southern living. Let's do this.
Hey y'all, Happy New Year! In the South, we have a tradition when it comes to the foods that you should eat on the very first day of every year.
It's true. Very, very, very
If
true.
you've lived in the South for any length of time, you're very well aware that you must eat at least a spoonful of black-eyed peas on New Year's Day because it brings you wealth. Now, growing up wasn't my favorite thing to do, but here I am, 28 years later, I've done it every year, and now I love black-eyed peas. Now, we've got all of our traditional New Year's foods, and they all symbolize something different. We have pork. Pork is in every dish that I'm cooking, but I also have an entree of pork chop, and pork is supposed to bring you prosperity or progress in the new year because pigs have a snout and they root forward, so that is supposed to signify prosperity and progress. So 3 things represent wealth: cornbread, black-eyed peas, and greens. And then we've got prosperity and progress with the pork, good fortune, good luck, wealth, just all the things in the new year. That is why we eat it on New Year's Day. And it is certainly not New Year's Day without it in my house. The very first thing that you need to do is soak your black-eyed peas the night before. I like to put mine in a baking sheet and kind of sort through them, make sure that there are no pebbles or any bad peas, and then pour water over them and they soak up water nicely. Then you can get started on the rest of your meal. I typically start with cornbread just because it goes in the oven, and while it's in the oven, I can start getting my other ingredients prepped and ready, and cornbread heats up beautifully, so I like to get that over and done with so I'm not worried about it at the end. It bakes, take it out, then you can warm it back up in the oven. This recipe is for Southern Living's Ben Mims Perfect Cornbread, and y'all, if you haven't tried it, it is so delicious, and you definitely should.
I don't soak my black-eyed peas overnight. I do rinse them and clean them and go through for pebbles and bad peas. I do soak them for a little bit to make sure that they're not to make sure they're clean and to make sure that they get a little bit of moisture. But I don't want them to absorb too much water because I use broth, and then I actually cook them with a smoked ham hock. So, which is the pork in the peas. So, I want them to get that flavor. And if they have too much water in them, it's going to affect my base. It's going to affect the way that the soup around them tastes, and it's going to affect the flavor of the peas. They're not going to absorb as much of that broth. They're not going to taste right. I've done it before where I've soaked them overnight, and it just has affected the way the peas taste, and they don't taste as good. As for cornbread, I don't make a traditional cornbread because my cornbread is more of a corn cake. It's a sweeter version. It's just the cornbread I grew up on, so that's the way I make it, is a sweeter cornbread. And it is a yellow cornbread. I don't make a white cornbread. And I do make a savory version, which is cheddar jalapeno cornbread for my husband. Editor hubby loves all things spicy. God bless his soul. And other parts of his anatomy, because I don't know how he survived this long eating habanero peppers and hot sauce. But yeah, these 2 things are staples in my New Year's. And actually cornbread is a staple in our house. I make it all the time.
Once my cornbread comes out of the oven, I start with my tomato gravy because I like to let that simmer on the back burner for as long as I can. I really like the depth of flavor that the long simmering adds. Tomato gravy is super easy if you've never made it. You're gonna need hog jowl, bacon, or salt pork. What you wanna do is render some pork fat, and you can supplement it with bacon grease that I always keep in my fridge. Chop up some onion. For this recipe, I'm doing 1 can of fire roasted diced tomatoes with the juices and a half of a Vidalia onion. So after you've rendered your pork fat, chopped up your onions, put those in, let those soften, add in some minced garlic and some tomato paste. The tomato paste will thicken it up, and then add in your can of tomatoes, let that simmer, and then my secret ingredient, Worcestershire sauce. Let it simmer, and then you can serve it over plain white rice. It is so delicious. Next up is getting started on my collard greens and my black-eyed peas. So we're gonna need some pots for those and some more of that salt pork or hog jowl, or in this case, I have a smoked ham hock.
Now see, that's what I use
to flavor my collard greens. And we're gonna get those started on some pots on the stove. I'm going to add in some more of that salt pork. Like bacon, this will render and give you some good pork fat to cook your greens in. 2 pieces I think will be perfect for this. If not, I will supplement it with some bacon grease. And once that's all the way melted, you can go ahead and add in your greens to saute. Listen to that pop. Once your greens have reduced down in size, they're nicely sauteed. Now I'm going to add in some chicken broth and water. The chicken broth adds some flavor. They are going to be so good, and we're just going to let these things go and do their thing. I'm going to
whether it's collard greens, mustard greens, any greens, kale, whatever, you're going to want to put them in a broth, because doing them in a plain water, you're going to get something that's got a dirty, woody taste, I found. And it just is not as appetizing. If you give it, if you're a vegetarian, a nice veggie broth, mushroom broth, or a hearty, a good, we always use chicken broth because it's so mild, but it will add a nice flavor with the pork, so it doesn't overpower. And even though you have, you know, I don't do collard greens. I'll do mustard greens, but typically we do cabbage. And I think that's mostly just because both of our families have German in them, so cabbage was the go-to green. But so far everything is...
Cover it with a lid, and even though I'm covering it, there will still be a little bit of evaporation, so I'll probably have to add in some water every now and then. We're just going to let these things go. Probably cook for about 2 hours.
Yep.
Meanwhile, on this side of the stove, I've got some water almost up to a boil for my black-eyed peas. Now, I have these 2 ingredients, some salt pork. You could also do hog jowl, ham hock, whatever. You just need some pork fat flavor. And then I've got a carrot. Now, very important ingredient when you're cooking peas of any kind. Throw in a carrot. I broke it in half. This is an old wives' tale. Adding a carrot into your peas will take out that unwanted extra little bit that happens in your stomach after you eat any kind of legume. It'll take it away. I don't know if it's true, but let me just tell you right now, I will never cook peas without a carrot in them. So water is up to a boil. I drain my soaked peas. They are going in. Add in my carrot and some more salt pork for flavor. Bring it up to a boil, then reduce it to a simmer and let it go until my peas are tender. And now the grand finale, fried pork chops with cream gravy. We've got bacon grease. Now, nothing about this meal is healthy, so start your resolutions tomorrow. There is pork fat in everything. In with the liquid gold to fry up these pork chops. I'm also gonna add in a little bit of canola oil just because it has a higher smoke point and will help prevent the pork chops from
salted.
I have mixed together some flour with some seasoned salt and black pepper, and I salted my pork chops. These are about 1 inch thick. I like them on the thinner side for this meal, but I do love a good old thick pork chop otherwise. But for this, no thicker than 1 inch. And then you're gonna wanna save the leftover flour in your bowl for your gravy. Then when you have your pork chops dusted in flour, we can add them to the hot skillet. In we go with my pork chops. This is a 10-inch cast iron skillet, and I've got 2 nice sized pork chops in there. You could do a larger skillet and fit more pork chops, however you wanna go. Pork chops are resting. I have my grease that I cooked them in. I need to reserve about 1 tablespoon in my skillet, so the rest of it I'm going to get rid of in a bowl. put my skillet back on my eye to make some gravy. Now that reserved flour mixture that I breaded my pork chops in is here, and I need to add about a tablespoon of that. After your flour's starting to smell really cooked, I got about a cup of milk I'm going to whisk in. It will continue to thicken after you take it off of the heat. So you're going to let it stay a little bit loose. Yep. It'll thicken right up when you're ready to serve it.
And that's all there is to it.
Okay, this gravy is looking really good. It is not too thick, which is just the way that I want it. Still creamy. I'm going to remove it from the heat. And I don't have a gravy though. But I do have this really cool blue glass measuring cup that I will pour my gravy up in. It will still thicken as we go, and now I can get everything ready to eat this New Year's Day meal. If this is not perfection, I really don't know what is. I mean, we've got black-eyed peas with the tomato gravy, the cream gravy on the pork chop, but I'm gonna eat it with everything. The collards, the cornbread, the relish tray to eat it all. Oh my goodness. So I'm going for it because my mouth is still just like, I cannot explain how much it's watering right now. Happy New Year. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you're watching on YouTube, click the bell so you never miss an episode of Hey Y'all. If you eat the traditional New Year's foods on New Year's Day, I have got to know in the comments. Did I miss anything? These are all the traditions in my family, but I would love to know if your family has any other traditional foods that they always eat on New Year's as well. I gotta dig into this. This has been a joy. It has been so much fun. Without further ado, Happy New Year. May it bring you wealth, prosperity, and good fortune. Y'all, it really doesn't get any better than that. It doesn't. I'm here to tell, it does not.
It looked amazing, I'm not gonna lie. And it is typically what we make here in our house, and what I eat at other family members' houses if we go to their house. It's a ham. It's usually a country ham, which the difference between, in case you don't know, a country ham and a city ham is one's the salted sort of shank style ham, smoked ham. City ham is more the sweet spiral slice style hams. So typically it's going to be your country ham, greens or cabbage, and black-eyed peas. And again, just prosperity, moving forward, money, the whole 9 yards. And typically, and I don't know if this is just for my family and friends in the area I grew up in, but you're going to have a cobbler of some kind of fruit cobbler to encourage happiness, sweetness and love, kind of. That is what it represents. So that was just that's the only thing I can think of is the dessert is a berry or fruit cobbler, because they're supposed to bring love and happiness. So yeah, what about you guys? What are your traditions? Do you do these foods, or do you have other ones that you typically have to have on New Year's Day for it to be? And what do they symbolize, if anything? I'd love to know. Comment below, please. And as always, please like this video. If you're not already a fellow fan geek, subscribe to our channel. It means the world to me and editor hubby. And as always, hit that notification bell with your notifications turned on so that you know every time we drop a new video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.